Welcome to Cross Platform Podcast, where we discuss how to solve productivity problems across platforms. I'm Augusto Pinaud,
And I'm Art Gelwicks.
and we are back to our tip segment. And this week we have three tips, assuming I can find my articles in here. So let's talk about the first one. And the first tip is the ballistic glass and protectors. And I have protectors. Again, my main device is the iPad, so I have on the iPads as well as the phone protectors. But I discovered many years ago the ballistic ones. And it's a millimeter thick glass, real glass that you put on top of that.
Mhm.
And they have saved my phones more times than what I want to admit. And actually, the reason this came was because this morning my phone fall, face down in the floor, and I thought it was not a pretty sound. And yes, the ballistic glass on the front was completely destroyed, but
hmm
the phone was perfect. And
Yeah.
I have recommended these things for years, and many of my friends have experienced the same, where their ballistic get destroyed, but their phone, the real digitizer of the phone, didn't suffer. And I have two kids, and they have been having iPads since they were little kids. And that thing, yes, I need to replace it more often. But again, it's cheaper to replace the thing at $9 than
hmm
the screen 150.
The ballistic glass protectors, no question about it, are probably the best ones you can get. I've used the plastic ones. I've used the rubberized ones. They all have their downsides. The only challenges I've run into with ballistic glass ones are don't buy the cheap ones. And it
Mhm.
has nothing to do with the glass itself. It has to do with how it connects to the phone. The most of the phones that I've had over the years have some sort of a curved shape to them on the outer edges. Specifically, the Samsungs, for some reason, they had that waterfall design.
Mhm.
That makes it very difficult for a lower end ballistic glass to attach to it because often they only put the adhesive along the outer perimeter. That makes it very difficult. It doesn't stick very well. It pops off. Dirt and dust get under it, which kind of diminishes the purpose of it. A high end one will often use a larger or a different type of adhesive, almost a fluid based adhesive in some cases. I've even seen ones that use a UV activated adhesive. But once you get that ballistic glass on there, and if it's a good quality one, it should not interfere with, like, for example, underscreen fingerprint
Right,
readers,
with
which is a
anything.
problem. Um, then yeah, it's going to be bulletproof, no pun intended. I mean, it is absolutely worth that type of thing to protect your device. And
Yeah, I love a
we,
brand that I was involved with them many, many years back. But even after
Mhm.
after I stopped working with them, so the brand is Tech Armor, and I really
Yes.
like them because they are high end, they are dependable, and they have
Mhm.
a great support.
Yeah, I've used Tech Armor myself in the past. The other thing about ballistic glass that I like so much, it's not so much that when you drop the device or major impacts, it's micro scratches. Being able
Mhm.
to protect your device against micro scratches over the extended life of the device, even with plastic or rubberized screen protectors, you're still going to pick those scratches up and they
Right.
reduce the visual quality. A ballistic glass protector minimizes the micro scratches, it eliminates them on the actual screen itself, which one makes it easier to read, easier to use. But here's the benefit: if you decide to trade it in or sell it later, or resell the device, it increases the value of the device because the screen's in better shape.
It's in much better
So
shape.
having a screen protector on your phone is absolutely worth it. I'm a case guy too. I think it's worth having a case on your device because this is not, a $200 or $100 thing that's in your pocket. This is a serious chunk of financial investment that you're carrying around. You wouldn't want to roll the dice. You wouldn't be driving your car around without bumpers. So, why risk something like where your life is basically stored
Mhm.
and not have adequate protection on it? So, yep,
Right.
ballistic glass, good call.
So our next one is the fastest way to create a Google Doc
I
is
Yeah, I love this feature. Sorry to jump in there because I think
no,
this
no,
is
go,
really
go.
neat and I wish other companies would do this. What Google did with Google Workspace, and this isn't new. This has been around for a little bit, but it's one of those features that If you don't know about it, you forget, or if you hear about it and you don't use it, you forget. But if you start to use it regularly, all of a sudden it can be changing. If you're a Google Docs user and you need to create a new document, you don't have to go to Google Docs to do it. You can just go to the address line in Chrome or the URL line and type in docs.new, docs.new. That will immediately open Google Docs, assuming you're logged in. It'll open Google Docs and it will start a new blank document for you right then. That quick.
And it works with Sheets. It's sheets.new,
It's
slides.new, and it's
Yeah.
incredible, I think.
When you get into the situation and we compare it to normal productivity thinking, one of the challenges with productivity is always immediate capture. And I hear this all the time. How do I capture these thoughts? How do I capture these things? Well, we spend the bulk of our time with our browser open because we're using browser-based applications. Why go through 8 steps to get into a tool that's going to allow you to write the stuff down when you can just type in docs.new and then start typing and capture it and know it's going to be automatically saved into your cloud-based storage for Google Docs? It is that kind of a streamlined functionality at the domain level is the type of thing that I wish more companies would recognize the value of, being able to provide that functionality. So that's the tip for if you're a Google Docs user, a Google Sheets user, Google Slides user, they're great ways to be able to just drop things into place and use those.
So on our last tip, it's about Calendly and the use of Calendly or Acuity. There are two different companies, two different approach. Acuity was, I don't know, in the last 12 months, I think, acquired by Squarespace. But Acuity was what I use instead of Calendly because allows you to, or at that time allows you to synchronize 2 iCloud accounts and all the other versions. So that's where I create for my business instead of Calendly. But and you recently started using Calendly to do everything. So talk about it and why we're sharing this tip.
So I did just start recently using Calendly. Calendly, if you're not familiar, and same with Acuity, the basic premise is to be able to interface or provide an interface to your calendar for people who don't normally have access to your calendar. Now, normally that freaks people out and they say, well, wait, I don't want people looking at my calendar. Well, they're not looking at your calendar. They're looking at the available time that you've said they're allowed to look at. And it's best explained through an example. So I offer coaching services. Somebody wants to spend time with me in a coaching service, they can go to my website, they can say schedule a session. They click on that button. What happens is they see a series of time slots available over various days. They can choose their day, they can choose the time slot, and it sets up a time. Now, normally you're going, oh, okay, those are all preset up and it's just going to happen. How do you handle things like conflicts and all? Well, that's all taken care of for you. These types of tools interface with your calendar and they say, okay, within the range of time that you've designated, I'm allowed to look at anything that's open that doesn't have something already slotted and make that available to somebody who's going to request your time. When that request comes in, it's blocked out in your calendar, so then it can't be double booked. But here's the benefit. Unlike older systems where you would just say, here's the times I have available, and then you would have to manage your calendar. If I go into my calendar and I block a meeting separately, Calendly automatically says, oh, that's not available anymore. I'm not even going to show that to anybody. And it happens in real time. Same with Acuity. These are the types of tools that give you control over your calendar in a way that you have probably never had before. And if you're in a corporate environment, you've probably gone through the exercise of somebody saying, okay, set up a meeting. Oh, that's just a nightmare waiting to happen, especially if it's multiple people, because now you have to look at everybody's calendars. You have to use a tool like Outlook to say, okay, find me a time slot that fits on everybody's calendar. Now I can't even find a time slot because, and we've all run into these people, the people who will block their entire day so
Right.
nobody can send them calendar invites. Well, this is a whole different approach. You can't send me an invite. I'm giving you the opportunity to look at what I've said I have available as times to meet. And I can create different tiers of those. For example, if I have office hours during the week, those office hours are available as a specific time block. If I have scheduled, for example, for coaching sessions, that's a different set of time blocks. They can't conflict. They can't overlap because they all feed back to my main calendar. And I think that's what is most compelling about this. Honestly, before this, I didn't realize that Acuity was owned by Squarespace. I'm going to go back and look into Acuity primarily because I'm a Squarespace user, and
Oh,
having that integrated capability may be worthwhile more so than what Calendly provides. But just that subscription based, or that, how do I want to say it, managed calendar interaction is really compelling.
right. And for me, for example, they're as a coach and as a depending the clients or the type of coaching that I'm doing, I can then say, you know what, this coaching I'd only want to happen in this schedule. Let's say Monday through Friday between 9 and 2 p.m. And then this other kind of coaching, it can happen only, can happen every time. But it is such an easy process. And, a friend of mine, I have not catch up with all this pandemic and stuff. We have really lost contact. And I was going to go back to Indiana. So I sent them a text, and this person replied to me, and I really didn't thought about it. Said, yeah, we should catch up. And my immediate response was, here is my calendar. Okay. And she was able to book half an hour video call, no issues, in 3 seconds, without going back and forward. When is good? You friend? No, this is that's. It was a 3 seconds thing, really powerful. And like that, I have for the difference. Not only that, you can program Acuity as well as Calendly to say, you know what, those 15 minutes or 30 minutes for this meeting need to have a 10 minutes before and a 10 minutes after, whatever thing you said. So that way people have, that blockage, and you can have the bandwidth to go. So I don't want to have a coaching back to back to back to back, because the coaching may be 50 minutes, but I may want to stay. We were in a point that I want to stay. So the 50-minute coaching for me, it's really an hour 20, because what I want to have is that half an hour after, because I need to process notes. I need to do a lot of work after the call ends. But it's really easy for me to send the link. This is completely invisible for the client, but it works incredibly well in my calendar.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I've had conversations with people where they say, "Oh, I don't like that type of thing. Don't send me your schedule and then make me choose from it." And all. I'm like, you'll get over that, because you can choose. I'm giving you the latitude to find something that works for you, knowing that everything you see in front of you will work for me.
Exactly.
And I think their reaction to that is kind of a leftover trauma caused by things like Outlook, where you have to go and look at somebody's calendar and a bunch of calendars and slice things together. These tools have some very unique functionality built into them. For example, one of them is a group schedule where I can say, hey, I want up to 5 people. I want up to 10 people to participate in this session. Maybe I'm doing a webinar. Well, as soon as the first person says, yeah, this is when we're going to do this webinar, and that's going to lock this meeting in, everybody else can then jump into that meeting. They can add themselves in as part of that, and that time's already blocked out. I don't have to worry about it. I've declared when these things can happen. So if I look at my office hours in the tool, for example, my office hours, 9 to 4, Monday through Thursday, 9:30 to 1 on Fridays. Is that when I'm really in the office? Well, for the calendar purposes, yes. I may be in the office at 6 o'clock on Friday night,
Right.
but I have the option to not be. I have control over my calendar. It's not just, hey, you should be there. No, this is when you can deal, when I am willing to talk to you, when I can, when I am at my most effective, and when you should be at your most effective.
And, in a previous life as a salesperson, I use it. Had the link in there. Book with me. Don't wait. Don't send me an email when we can meet. Book it directly. And I have shared the story of Michael Slewinski, the Nosby CEO. Okay. In many of the invoice, it has that. Okay. Meet with the CEO. And once in a while, you see the link, meet with the CEO. And it has been an incredible way for him to grow his business because customers, don't need to, okay, how can I, when they want to talk to the CEO, they can click in there and there are a certain time in his calendar that is for meet with the CEO and these are available for any customer. And that makes an incredible difference.
Yeah, I have to say I went through for Calendly. I actually went through their webinar, which is something I rarely do. It's a thing I don't do. But it was worth it because it made me realize this is one of the struggle points that so many people have is getting their calendars under control. And it's primarily because control of their calendar is not in their hands. It's by everybody else who's trying to take control of their calendar. And this type of a tool requires almost a confidence to say, nope, this is when I'm available. And you have to operate within this scope. Somebody can't go into the tool and say, oh, well, it's not showing me a time for, 6 o'clock on Friday, so I'm going to request that anyway. It's not an option. Right. They would have to go to extreme lengths to request that. And it gives me the opportunity to say, nope, sorry, not happening, not available. So that type of a control mechanism, especially if you're an independent professional, or if you're
and even if you're not.
Yeah. I mean, if you can do it in a business environment, that's even better. Think about your sales team. The sales team being able to say, hey, I want to talk to a sales guy. Now it's not a matter of playing phone tag with them. Now it's not a matter of sending it. It's like, hey, you know what? I want 15 minutes of your time. On their business card, in their email signature, there can be a link that says, hey, give me a call. And instead of it just being a phone number, it's, hey, I'm going to give you a call tomorrow at 8, tomorrow at 10. And that's the schedule that you've set up to be available. And there's neat little nuance pieces to this. For example, one of the options that Calendly does is it gives you the chance to say, for a particular thing, you cannot book it in any less than a certain amount of time. Let me explain. So if I'm doing a coaching session, for example, and the coaching session availability is at 2 p.m. today, they can't book it at 1 p.m. today. I set it up to say that I need at least 24 hours notice.
Right. At least, I think mine is 6 hours. But yeah.
And that's the kind of thing, because I want to make sure that there's prep time. I want to make sure that I'm ready to go and I'm at my best situation to get the most out of that environment. And while we think that, that's almost an entitled thought process of, I'm going to dictate. No, it's just being fair and equitable to people. Do I want to take a call I'm not ready for? Do you want me to take a call I'm not ready for? I would say probably not.
Probably not.
You want me at my A game, not at my C game. Well, if you're going to call me out of the blue and I'm not ready for you, you're going to get my C game and you're going to have to wait while I get everything organized. But if I know it's coming and I'm able to prep for it, you're going to get a whole different conversation and a different level of quality of output. And that's what we talk about all the time is work less and achieve more. Well, that's exactly what this type of a tool does.
Correct.
So I would highly recommend and I think this is both of our mutual tips, whether it's Acuity, whether it's Calendly, whether it's one of the other programs out there on the market or services out on the market, doesn't really matter what.
It doesn't matter which one.
Look into it. See if this is something that, one, you can implement, 2, if it will benefit, and 3, take a close look at your calendar and see what you're struggling with your calendar. We always say calendar is one of the top, one of the big 3. It's calendar, tasks, and notes. This is one of the things that if you can help fix your calendar, you're going to make your life a heck of a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. And and as you said, doesn't matter which one. Just look into the options and the features, and they have an incredible amount in the difference you do. But think on the power and think on the possibilities and think, when you want people to meet with you. I do a lot of volunteer for the school of my kids in the church. Okay, so if I want people wants to meet with me, there is a link that is just for them. So it make it sure that it's not in my productive areas, it's on other areas, maybe after hours, and they can access there. And you can have an unlimited number of links based on those meetings. That is really, really powerful.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree.
Well, with this, follow us where you like to listen podcast, like us, or subscribe to us and leave us a review. You can also interact with us in personalproductivity.club. We are Augusto Pinaud and Art Gelwicks. See you next time on your favorite device.